Before you book that Lombok trip, here's what Americans are really spending to stay there. Lombok is quickly becoming one of Southeast Asia's most talked about destinations. Often called Bali 15 years ago, this is the Indonesian island that offers stunning beaches, world-class surfing, and a much slower, more relaxed pace of life. We're uncovering the real costs of housing, food, healthcare, transportation, and visas on the island, just like the features you've seen in Budget Traveler, Wanderlust, and Coastal Living. Stay until the end for the biggest financial advantage it offers, something most Americans don't discover until after they've already moved there. Imagine waking up to palm trees swaying outside your window and the sound of waves in the distance, all for less than what many Americans pay for a cramped city apartment. Housing in Lombok is one of the first things that surprises newcomers. Compared to major cities in the United States, the prices feel almost unreal, and many Americans quickly realize they can upgrade their lifestyle without upgrading their budget. Let's break down the most common options. First are budget apartments, which typically range from $300 to $600 per month. These places are usually simple but comfortable. Expect a clean studio or one-bedroom unit with basic furnishings, air conditioning, and sometimes even a small terrace. They're popular with digital nomads, surfers, and long-term travelers who want affordability while staying close to beaches and local cafes. Next are private villas, which usually cost between $700 and $1,500 per month. And this is where Lombok really stands out. Many villas come with features that feel more like a vacation resort than a rental home. Think a private pool, a small tropical garden, and sometimes even regular housekeeping. One of the biggest surprises for Americans is just how affordable these villas can be. In many U.S. cities, $1,500 might barely cover a small apartment. In Lombok, that same amount can get you a spacious tropical villa with a pool. But housing is only part of the cost. Stick around, we're just getting started. We'll talk about the rest of the expenses living in the island entails. The first time you realize dinner costs less than your morning coffee back home, you know daily life in Lombok is going to feel very different. Once housing is sorted, the next surprise for many Americans is how affordable everyday living can be. From meals to transportation, the island offers a lifestyle that often feels both simpler and more enjoyable. Let's start with food. If you eat like a local, meals are incredibly inexpensive. At small neighborhood eateries known as warongs, you can enjoy dishes like grilled chicken, fresh seafood, or rice with vegetables for around $2 to $4 per meal. The food is freshly prepared, flavorful, and often served within minutes. If you're craving something more familiar, Western restaurants are widely available in popular areas. Even there, meals usually cost between $6 and $12. Whether it's a burger, pasta dish, smoothie bowl, or fresh seafood plate, groceries are also reasonable, especially if you mix local markets with occasional imported items. Most expats report spending around $150 to $250 per month on groceries, depending on how often they cook at home. Transportation is equally simple. Many residents rent a scooter for about $50 to $80 per month, which is the easiest way to get around the island. In fact, many expats say their lifestyle improves here because eating out often becomes cheaper than cooking. Keep watching, because we'll be talking about the expenses most people forget to calculate next. Nothing tests the reality of living abroad faster than the first time you need to see a doctor. For many Americans considering Lombok, healthcare is one of the biggest questions. The good news is that everyday medical care on the island is surprisingly affordable and accessible. A typical visit to a local clinic usually costs around $20 to $40, depending on the treatment. Many clinics can handle routine needs like minor illnesses, prescriptions, or basic medical consultations. Appointments are often quick, and in many cases, you can walk in without scheduling days in advance. For more serious situations, there are also private hospitals available in Lombok and nearby areas. These facilities generally offer more advanced equipment, English-speaking staff, and a higher standard of care compared to smaller clinics. Because of this, many expats choose to combine local care with international health insurance. This gives them the flexibility to handle everyday medical visits locally while still having coverage for larger medical emergencies, specialized treatments, or evacuation to bigger medical centers if needed. International insurance plans typically cost between $80 and $200 per month, depending on your age, coverage level, and provider. Overall, healthcare in Indonesia is considered affordable for routine care. However, many expats still prefer to maintain international coverage for major medical needs to give themselves extra peace of mind while living abroad. Make sure to watch all the way through. You won't believe what we found about the visa and legal costs in the island. One of the biggest surprises for Americans moving to Lombok isn't the beaches or the prices, it's the paperwork. Living in Indonesia long-term means understanding your visa options. And this is where many newcomers realize that planning ahead really matters. While the island lifestyle can be affordable, staying legally requires choosing the right visa and budgeting for it. Many Americans start with a tourist visa. These visas can often be extended several times, allowing visitors to stay longer while they explore the island and decide if Lombok is the right fit for them. It's a common starting point for travelers who want flexibility before committing to something more permanent. Another option gaining popularity is digital nomad-style visas, designed for remote workers who earn income outside of Indonesia. These visas allow people to live on the island while continuing their online careers. For those planning a longer stay, there are also long-term residency visas, which provide greater stability and fewer renewals throughout the year. Depending on the visa type, application process, and renewal fees, estimated yearly visa costs typically range from about $600 to $2,000. It's not the most exciting part of island life, but it's an important one. In fact, visa fees are one of the most common expenses people overlook when budgeting their new life overseas in Lombok. You'll want to know how much it will cost you monthly to live in the island. Trust me. Here's the moment when most Americans living in Lombok stop and ask themselves one simple question: why didn't I do this sooner? When you add everything together, housing, food, transportation, healthcare, and visa expenses, the total monthly cost of living in Lombok can be surprisingly manageable. For those keeping things simple, a budget lifestyle typically falls between $1,200 and $1,500 per month. This usually includes a modest apartment, frequent meals at local cafes or warungs, scooter transportation, and basic day-to-day expenses. If you prefer a little more comfort, most expats settle into a comfortable lifestyle that ranges from $1,700 to $2,200 per month. At this level, you might be living in a private villa, eating regularly at Western restaurants, and enjoying more flexibility for entertainment, travel, and occasional luxuries. Then there's the luxury expat lifestyle, which starts at around $2,500 per month or more. This often includes a larger villa with a pool, frequent dining out, wellness activities, and a very relaxed island routine. What surprises many Americans is that even this higher-end lifestyle can still cost significantly less than living back home. In fact, many expats discover their total monthly spending in Lombok ends up being less than half of what they once paid in the United States. What we reveal as the hidden financial advantage of living in the island might just surprise you. Here's the financial detail that many Americans don't discover about Lombok until they've already been living on the island for a while. While most newcomers arrive expecting to rent, they quickly notice something surprising about the local real estate market. Compared to nearby Bali, land and property prices in Lombok are still significantly lower, which creates opportunities that many expats didn't originally plan for. In some coastal regions, beach area land can range from about $60,000 to $120,000 per plot, depending on the location and proximity to popular surf beaches or growing tourist areas. For Americans used to the housing market back home, those numbers can feel almost unbelievable. That's why many expats come to Lombok, planning to rent for a few months or a year. But after spending time on the island, some start doing the math and realize something unexpected. Buying land or even building a private villa can cost less than purchasing a small condo in many US cities. This shift in perspective is one of the reasons long-term residents often describe Lombok in a very specific way. They call it Bali before the boom, a place where opportunity still exists for those who arrive early. Lombok isn't for everyone, but for Americans who want tropical beaches, laid-back surf culture, and a slower way of living, it might just be one of Southeast Asia's most underrated islands. If it sounds like your kind of place, check the links in the description to start planning your visit or your future there.